Students, welcome to the Indian Constitution virtual class. So, in this class, let us uh, discuss about the Gandhian principles, which is the second classification of directive principles. Some Gandhian principles are listed like this: to organize village panchayats and endow them with adequate powers and security, to promote cottage industries on an individual and cooperative basis in the rural areas, to promote the educational and economic interests of the weaker sections of the people, and in particular of the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, and to protect them from social injustice and all forms of exploitation, to bring about prohibition of the consumption of intoxicating drinks and drugs which are injurious to health, to organize agriculture and animal husbandry, and to take steps for preserving and improving the breeds and prohibiting the slaughter of cows and calves and other milk and draught cattle, to maintain just and honorable relations between the nations, to foster respect for international and treaty obligations, to encourage a settlement of international disputes by arbitration. Some liberal principles, which is the third classification of directive principles. So, here are some liberal principles are listed. First one, to secure a uniform civil code for Indians. So, one law for the whole country, irrespective of religion of the people. So the bill is there in the parliament since long time. No government has taken keen interest in implementing the uniform civil code. So in these days, so some uh, discussions are going on to implement uniform civil code. Second, to provide for free and compulsory education to all children up to the age of 14 years within 10 years, to secure the separation of judiciary from the executive, to ensure the judiciary to be independent, to provide free legal aid to the poor so that justice is not denied to any citizen because of poverty. So, here are some directive principles of state policy which are mentioned article wise. So, the information is also given there. Then, additions in part 4, some additional directive principles are added. The 42nd and 44th amendments to the Constitution together added 5 new directive principles in part 4, Article 39F, which provided that the state direct its policy towards securing for the children opportunities and facilities to develop in a healthy manner and in conditions of freedom and dignity, and for protecting children and youth from exploitation and against material abandonment. Article 39A, which provided that the state shall secure operation of the legal system, promotes justice, and provide free legal aid to the poor and other disabled citizens. Article 43A, which laid down that the state shall secure the participation of workers in the management of undertakings, establishments, or other organizations engaged in any industry. Article 48A, which states that the state shall endeavor to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forests and wildlife of the country. By 44th Amendment Act 1978, a new directive principle, Article 38, Clause 2, was added to Part 4. So, this is a paper cutting of the additions of the new directive principles. The 42nd Amendment Act of 1976 added four new directive principles to the original list. They are: require the state to secure opportunities for healthy development of children, Article 39, to promote equal justice and to provide free legal aid to the poor, Article 39A, to take steps to secure the participation of workers in the management of industries, Article 43A, to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard forests and wildlife, Article 48A. The 44th Amendment Act of 1978 added one more directive principle which requires the state to minimize inequalities in income, status, facilities, and opportunities, Article 38. So, since independence, many parties formed the governments in India, and all these governments tried to implement the directive principles through many programs. So, let us see how the governments tried and what programs concluded are the steps taken by the governments to implement the directive principles, which is called as implementation of directive principles. There is no need of any constitutional amendment, and simple legislation is adequate to implement the directive principles as applicable laws as per Article 245, as they are already enshrined in the Constitution. The state has made few efforts from 1950 to till now to implement the directive principles. So, the important programs of the governments to implement directive principles are: the program of universalization of elementary education and 5-year plans have been accorded the highest priority in order to provide free education to all the children up to the age group of 14 years. The 86th Constitutional Amendment of 2002 inserted a new article, Article 21A, into the Constitution that seeks to provide free and compulsory education to all children aged 6 to 14 years. Welfare schemes for the weaker sections are being implemented both by the central government and state governments. These include programs such as boys and girls hostels for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes students. The year 1990-91 was declared as the year of social justice in the memory of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. The government provides free textbooks to students belonging to scheduled caste or scheduled tribes pursuing medical and engineering courses. During 2002 and 3, a sum of rupees 47.7 million was released for this purpose to provide free textbooks. In order to that, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes are protected from atrocities. The government enacted the Prevention of Atrocities Act, which provided severe punishments for such atrocities. Several land reforms acts were enacted to provide ownership rights to poor farmers. Up to September 2001, more than 20 lakhs acres of land had been distributed to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and the landless poor. To thrust of banking policy in India has been to improve banking facilities in the rural areas. The Minimum Wages Act of 1948 empowers government to fix minimum wages for employees engaged in various employments. Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act 1986, etc., seeks to protect the interests of the workers. The Consumer Protection Act of 1986 provides for the better protection of consumers. The Act is intended to provide simple, speedy, and inexpensive redressal to the consumer's grievances, relief and compensation wherever appropriate to the consumer. The Maternity Benefit Act 1961 and Equal Remuneration Act of 1976 provides for equal pay for equal work for both men and women. The Sampurna Gramin Rojgar Yojana was launched in 2001 to attain the objective of gainful employment for the rural poor. The program was implemented through the Panchayati Raj institutions. The National Forest Policy 1988 aims at the protection, conservation, and development of the forests, etc. Panchayat Raj now covers almost all states and union territories. One third of the total number of seats have been reserved for women in panchayats at every level. In the case of Bihar, half of the seats have been reserved for women. Handloom board, handicraft board, choir board, silk board have been set up for the development of cottage industries. Legal aid at the expenses of the state has been made compulsory in all cases pertaining to criminal law if the accused is too poor to engage a lawyer. Judiciary has been separated from the executive in all the states and union territories except Jammu and Kashmir and Nagaland. India's foreign policy has also to some degree been influenced by the directive principles. India in the past has condemned all acts of aggression and has also supported the United Nations peacekeeping activities. Integrated Rural Development Programs 1978, Jawahar Rojgar Yojana 1989, Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarajgar Yojana 1999, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program 2006, etc., have been implemented to improve the living standards of the people. By 2004, the Indian Army had participated in 37 UN peacekeeping operations. India played a key role in the passing of a United Nations resolution in 2003, which envisaged better cooperation between the Security Council and the troop contributing countries. India has also been in favor of nuclear disarmament. As per Article 37, state and union governments as duty shall make further detailed policies and laws for the implementation considering directive principles of state policy as fundamental policy. In contrary to Article 37, many policies have been implemented by state and union governments which go against the directive principles of state policy, such as using intoxicating drinks as a source of